Good afternoon. Today we're having the third video class of this module. So previously we talked about the principle of communicable diseases. In the second video class we talked about the human microbe interaction, and today finally we're talking about the epidemiology of infectious disease. Today we maybe are going to talk about again about some concepts that you will be remembering from the first two video classes. So, what is epidemiology of infection diseases? Um, this is here are some differences. First, a case can also be an exposure. So the epidemiology is in charge of a study where the case is being infection to other population. Then subclinical infection may influence epidemiology as well. Also studies the contact parents and its role in this interaction, and also studies the immunity of the person and the population. And sometimes there is the need for urgency. So, what is epidemiology? What epidemiology does? It deals with one population or more, also takes care of the risks and the cases, also identifies the causes, and the epidemiology of the infection disease take care of two or more population studies how a case can also be a risk factor, and also studies the cause that often is known. So what are these population? These populations, first the humans, then the infectious agents like helminths, bacteria, fungi, protozoas, viruses, and prions. You maybe remember this from previous classes. The vectors first are mosquito that transmit malaria, snails that transmit schistosomiasis, black fly, and some other bacteria can also be vectors. Animals like dogs, sheep, or goats can transmit echinococcus. Mice and ticks can transmit borrelia. I'm going to see if the transmission is going well. So it seems like it is transmitting and you could hear me. Okay, we're going to continue. What is an infection disease epidemiology also? When a case is a risk factor, the infection in one person can be transmitted to others. So first we see the infected person and all of the other persons that are not infected at the moment. Then we can see how this person that was sick start making sick the other persons. The cause is often known, and infection agents is always necessary the cause of the infection disease. And what is this used for? Is used for identification of causes, new emerging infection like HIV, SARS. Also is used for surveillance of infection diseases, the identification of the source of outbreaks, the study of routes of transmission and natural history of infections, the identification of new interventions for this disease. So, what is the infection disease? Its definition is an infection disease is caused by an infectious agent, such as tetanus, measles, or HIV. What is a communicable disease? Is a disease that requires transmission directly or indirectly from an infected person. Transmissible disease is the transmission through unnatural routes from an infected person. And sometimes infections are subclinical. You will have the infection, but we don't have the infection disease. Also, some non-communicable diseases don't involve the communicable disease is where not non-virus or bacteria or pathogens are necessary for the disease, like diabetes. Here are some pathogens that cross the placenta. First, Toxoplasma gondii that causes toxoplasmosis, Treponema pallium that causes syphilis, Listeria that causes listeriosis, cytomegalovirus, parvovirus, and Rubivirus rubella. Also, there is a time for infection, the dynamic of infectiousness. First, the host must be susceptible. We are going to be in contact with the infection. We're going to have a latent period, an infection period, and then the infection stop the infections. And on the other hand, dynamics of the disease, we have the infection, we have the incubation period, we have the symptomatic period, and then when the disease ends. In the transmission, we have some definition. First, the index is the first cases of the first case identified. The primary is the case that brings the infection into a population, like this. This is the first person that gets the infection. The secondary is the person who is infected by the primary case. So first, this person was infected, then he infected a second person, and the tertiary is an infected person by the secondary case. So first, this got infected this, and this infected this, the tertiary. We can see we have susceptible persons, and we have immune persons. So sometimes some people don't get sick. We have the subclinical infection. I can be contaminated, but I don't get the disease. And then the clinical infection, where I get the disease. You may remember this epidemiologic triad that told us that we need an agent of infection, a host, and an environment. In the agent, these must have some characteristics. First, the infectivity, the pathogenicity, the virulence, the immunogenicity, the antigenic stability, and it must survive. The environment, the weather, the housing, the geographic, the occupational settings, the air quality, and the food. And the host must have an age, sex, genotype, behavior, nutritional status, and health status. Also, we have some concepts related to this triad. First, the infectivity is the ability of the bacteria or agent to infect. The pathogenicity is the ability that has the agents to cause the disease. The virulence is the ability to cause death, and all depend on the host factors. The predisposition to infections, the host factors, are the gender, genetics, weather or climate change, nutrition, stress, sleep, smoking, stomach acidity, and hygiene. And we have a concept that is the iceberg concept of infection, that this is when we have the exposure without cell entry, or we have exposure without infection. Then we have an incomplete viral maturation, or we have an infection without clinical illness. Then we have the cell transformation of cell dysfunction, or the clinical and severe disease, or moderate severity illness. Then we have the lysis of the cells, and this could be fatal for the patient. We also are going to talk about the Koch postulate, where he says that the same organism is present in every case. It is isolated and grown in a pure culture. The disease can be reproduced in healthy animals after the infection of the pure culture. And then we have the identical pathogen re-isolate from the experimental animals. Here is more like graphic. Then we have the suspect germ to be present in each case of the disease. So we have the same agent in all these three animals. We put it in a culture, and they must be grown in a pure culture. Then, after we have this culture, we must um, contaminate another animal, that this animal must present the same disease, and then this new animal, we take also the germ and must be re-isolated from the disease experimental host. And that's how uh, they used to prove that the same bacteria produce the disease. There are also ecological factors in the infection. First, some altered environment like air conditioning, then changing food production and handling. For example, with the antibiotic and fast food industry, then climate changes, global warming, deforestation, ownership of exotic pets, air traveling and exotic journeys, and all this can increase the use of immunosuppressive or antibiotics. The infection disease process is direct tissue invasion, production of toxins. Then we have the persistent or latent infection, the altered susceptibility to drugs, immune suppression, immune activation with cytokine storm. We have the endemic, epidemic, and pandemic term that we also talk about the previous class. Endemic is the transmission, when the transmission occurs, but the number of the cases remain constant. So we have some cases is always the same number. Endemic is when the number of cases increase, so increase the number of sick people. And pandemic is when the epidemics occurs in several continents. It's a global epidemic. The levels of the disease occurrence sporadic is occasional cases occurring at regular intervals. Endemic level, persistent occurrence with a low moderate level. Hyperendemic level is persistently high level of occurrence. epidemic or outbreak, occurrence clearly in excess of expected level for a given period. Pandemic is epidemic spread over several countries or continents, affecting a large number of people. And that's all for today. This class was to summarize what you learned during this course. So I hope you have a great time. Remember, you have some evaluation and activities that you must submit. I hope you have a great weekend and we talk and see you later.